From Omni Search Labs in Rhode Island, you're listening to Omnipresence. I'm Chris.
And I'm Cheryl. We're your AI guides from the Omni Search Labs virtual digital marketing team.
Join us as we unravel the latest from the OSL blog.
And walk you through the latest news and information on how to optimize your business for AI and search engines.
So, today we are looking at something that honestly feels like a massive wake-up call for the whole AI-driven internet.
Oh, absolutely. It's a huge shift.
Yeah, and we're focusing on a seemingly technical update from Google. But it really completely exposed how unprepared most businesses are for the future of search.
Right, because everyone's just chasing the shiny object.
Exactly. So we're pulling our insights today from a piece on our blog titled Google Drops FAQ Schema, Viva la Schema. And our whole mission for this deep dive is to really help you decode this critical difference between short-term visual marketing candy and, long-term machine understanding.
Which is so important if you don't want to accidentally erase your business from the AI landscape entirely.
Right. And to really understand the stakes here, we have to start by going back to May 7th, 2026.
Oh, man. That Tuesday.
Yeah, that Tuesday. Picture the digital marketing world just waking up in a state of complete terrified panic.
It was wild. It was this fascinating case study in myopia, really, because on that day, Google officially turned off a feature called FAQ-rich results for almost every single business website.
And anyone who follows SEO knows exactly what these were.
Right. They were those interactive, totally visually dominating drop-down menus that used to appear right under a search result.
Right. So if you searched for, say, a local plumber in Providence, you wouldn't just see their homepage link, right?
Yeah.
You'd see 3 or 4 specific questions like, do you offer 24/7 emergency service? With these little toggles, you could click to read the answer directly right there on Google's page.
Exactly. And they took up so much real estate. So to get that massive visual footprint, web developers would add specific background code to their websites called FAQ Schema.
And the transaction was just so obvious for years. You write the code, you get the shiny drop-down box, and you push your competitors further down the page.
It was a no-brainer. But then Google pulled the plug. The visual reward just disappeared overnight. And the immediate reaction across the whole industry was to just abandon the underlying code.
Which is crazy to think about now.
It is. Freelancers, agency owners, in-house marketing teams, they all just suddenly stopped writing FAQ schema entirely. A lot of them even went in and started deleting it.
Right, which brings up the exact question that any skeptical business owner listening to us right now is definitely going to ask.
Oh, I hear it every day.
Right. If a tree falls in the forest, if my customers can't see this drop-down box on the search page anymore, why in the world am I paying my web developer to keep writing this invisible code?
It's a fair question.
Yeah, the visual payoff is gone. The ROI seems to have just vanished into thin air.
But that assumption fundamentally misreads the entire architecture of the modern internet. Marketers basically confuse the display of information with the actual understanding of information.
Mm-hmm.
Google didn't render the schema code useless. They simply decoupled the visual presentation, the candy from the underlying machine logic. The algorithms are still out there actively crawling, indexing, and completely relying on that code behind the scenes to comprehend what a business actually does.
And the actual documentation proves this, doesn't it?
It does. Google explicitly stated that their automated systems still read this background structured data. They just turned off the public display monitor, basically.
Right, but the data pipeline running into their core algorithm is still wide open.
Exactly. And abandoning that pipeline is super dangerous because it ignores how search engines operate at scale. We need to kind of clarify what FAQ schema actually does mechanically.
Yeah, let's break that down without the heavy jargon.
Okay, so it's not a magical ranking button. It's actually a highly formalized translation layer. It uses a specific format, usually something called JSON-LD, to explicitly define the relationships between text on your web page.
So in the original post, we use this phenomenal analogy to explain this translation layer. And I really want to walk through it because I think it grounds the technical mechanics perfectly for our listeners.
The grocery store analogy, yeah.
Yeah. So think of your business's website like a bag of chips sitting on a grocery store shelf.
It is honestly the perfect way to visualize the divide between human users and machine crawlers.
Right, because your website's visual design, the typography, the hero images, the clever copywriting you spent weeks on that is the flashy front of the bag.
Right. It's entirely designed to trigger a psychological response in a human consumer. It makes the chips look delicious.
Exactly. But the schema markup, That is the black and white nutrition facts panel printed on the back. It doesn't make the bag look any prettier,
Yeah.
and it doesn't change the flavor of the chips at all. But it explicitly labels the ingredients in a perfectly standardized format so that any inspector, or, in our case, any machine, knows the exact molecular makeup of what's inside.
I love that. And to take that analogy even further, what an algorithm does is essentially strip away the front of the bag entirely.
Wow. What?
Yeah, a search crawler doesn't care about your brand colors or your clever puns. It looks at a raw HTML document, which is honestly often super messy and ambiguous. So when you add FAQ schema, you're giving the crawler that clean, standardized nutrition label.
You're taking the guesswork out.
Exactly. It tells the machine explicitly. Variable A is a formal question. Variable B is the definitive answer to that question. It totally removes all algorithmic guesswork.
So on May 7th, Google basically just stopped printing a massive replica of your nutrition label on the front of their search page.
Pretty much.
But their algorithms never stopped reading the back of the bag. The web is, rapidly transitioning from a human-readable medium to a strictly machine-readable medium.
Which is the core thesis of the whole analysis. If you start printing the nutrition label just because the grocery store stopped highlighting it in the aisle, you are rendering your product completely invisible to the inventory systems.
That is such a good point.
Right. We know that people search in questions, they want immediate answers. The businesses that maintain the most accurate machine-readable labels are the ones that those algorithms will ultimately trust to provide those answers.
But okay, if Google isn't displaying these answers directly in their traditional search results anymore, who exactly is reading the data? Why does that trust even matter now?
This is where things get really interesting.
Right, because this brings us to a massive paradigm shift that we call SEVO, Search Everywhere Optimization. Because, we're no longer just optimizing for 10 blue links on a single Google page.
No, not at all. The single search engine monopoly model is fracturing. So SEVO is all about establishing your business as an unambiguous, verified entity across this huge, vast ecosystem of different platforms.
You aren't just fighting for keyword placement anymore.
Exactly. You are fighting to be recognized as a distinct factual node in a much larger machine brain.
So the post outlines 3 vital, basically interconnected systems that actively rely on your FAQ schema to build that entity recognition. Let's look at the mechanics of these. First up is Google's knowledge graph, which is, essentially the internet's master relational database.
Right, and the knowledge graph doesn't think in terms of web pages. It thinks in terms of entities and relationships. So it uses your background schema to confidently draw a line connecting your business entity to a specific service entity down in a specific geographic location.
Like connecting a roofing company to commercial flat roofs in Fall River.
Exactly. If you strip away your FAQ schema, you break those connecting lines. You force the knowledge graph to rely on unstructured text, which immediately lowers its confidence score regarding what you actually do.
And when that confidence score drops, the second major system suffers, which is AI answer engines. We're talking about large language models here. ChatGPT, Google's Gemini, Perplexity. These engines are entirely dependent on high-confidence, pre-digested facts to answer user prompts.
Right.
So someone asked Perplexity, who is the most reliable commercial contractor in Providence? The AI desperately needs structured data to formulate a recommendation.
It does. And it's also really crucial to understand the third system here, which is alternative search engines, particularly Bing.
Oh, Bing is a big one.
Huge. Bing drives a massive portion of desktop business-to-business search, largely because it's just baked into the Windows operating system and all these corporate IT environments. Bing heavily utilizes this structured data to enhance its own results and feed Microsoft Copilot.
Wow, so if you only optimize for Google's visual output, you are entirely ignoring the underlying data layer that powers the whole Microsoft ecosystem.
You're just leaving money on the table.
I want to pause on the AI answer engines for a second, though, because this is exactly where a listener might push back.
Okay, lay it on me.
All right, so if I'm using ChatGPT to write emails or, analyze documents, it clearly understands plain English, right? So why do I need to spoon feed it with hidden schema code? Like if my frequently asked questions are clearly typed out on my website's front end, shouldn't the AI just read the text, understand the context like a human, and serve it up to the user?
It's a completely logical question, but it assumes large language models read the way humans read, and they just don't.
They don't.
No, when we read a paragraph, we use human intuition, we look at the visual hierarchy, we use real-world context to understand nuance. LLMs, on the other hand, are probabilistic prediction engines. They don't technically understand your text at all. They're just calculating the statistical likelihood of words following other words.
Ah, so they are incredibly prone to getting confused by unstructured data.
Highly prone. Without schema, you introduce what we call identity confusion. An AI scanner hits your web page and it sees, say, a bolded sentence followed by a paragraph.
Right.
Is that bolded sentence a formal question? Is it just a subheadline? Is it a customer quote? Is the following paragraph the definitive answer, or is it just a related thought?
It's guessing.
Exactly. Schema acts as deterministic grounding. It forces the probabilistic AI to recognize a hard, verifiable fact.
So you are basically building guardrails against AI hallucinations. When you pair your human-readable text with organized background schema, you give the AI a highly verified, totally risk-free source to cite.
Precisely. If you delete that schema just because the visual candy on Google disappeared, the AI's confidence in your data plummets. AI models are programmed to provide the most reliable answer possible. So if your competitor has explicitly labeled their data and you haven't,
The AI takes the path of least algorithmic resistance.
yes, it will recommend your competitor and you will never even know that you lost the lead.
Wow. You literally turn off the translator, and your business just goes completely dark in the AI's mind.
It's terrifying, honestly.
But giving the AI a perfectly labeled nutrition panel is dangerous if the ingredients inside are garbage. Like, if ChatGPT cites your business, but your answer is super generic or just wrong, it ruins the AI's reputation with the user.
Yeah.
So how do these machines actually judge if your content is safe to share? Because bad answers wrapped in good code won't save you.
They absolutely won't. And this is exactly where the technical architecture has to meet your content strategy. You cannot just wrap standard marketing fluff in JSON-LD code and expect an AI to recommend you.
Right.
The algorithm needs to measure the actual utility of the information.
Which brings us to how we solve that measurement problem. At Omni Search Labs, we use a framework called Equate, E-Q-U-A-T-E. And the credibility behind this isn't just theoretical. I've spent almost 30 years in search architecture, and this specific methodology recently won the 2025 Rhode Island Tech 10 Award and the 2026 Technology Excellence Award.
It's an incredible framework.
Thank you. And it basically builds on Google's standard EEAT framework, which is experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. But we add two critical algorithmic signals: quality and uniqueness.
And that addition, quality and uniqueness, is what makes this framework so perfectly tailored for AI answer engines. Let's look at the mechanics of uniqueness for a second.
Okay.
In the past, uniqueness just meant passing a plagiarism checker, right? It meant you didn't just copy and paste from Wikipedia. But to an AI engine today, semantic uniqueness means providing original value, specific local perspectives, or direct answers to hyper-niche problems that aren't found anywhere else in its training data.
Right, so if a user asked ChatGPT about a really highly specific local zoning regulation for commercial builds in Massachusetts, and your website's FAQ simply says, "We navigate all local laws to build great buildings," I mean, that is not unique.
No, it's just generic marketing copy.
Exactly. The AI will just discard it. But if your FAQ details the exact permit timeline for that specific county, you've suddenly provided unique, machine-valuable data.
And that ties directly back into trustworthiness and experience. How does an AI measure trust without human intuition? It cross-references your claims. It looks to see if the entities you mention in your answers actually align with known databases. It looks for firsthand experience rather than just, aggregated summaries of other websites. So when you combine the Equate framework with FAQ schema, the synergy is incredibly powerful.
You are essentially using the schema to explicitly declare your Equate signals directly to the machine. You're saying, here's a highly unique, deeply experienced answer to a very specific question, and I formatted it perfectly so you can extract it without any risk.
Yes. You elevate your website from a static digital brochure into an active, long-term digital knowledge base. You transition from just trying to look pretty on a visual search page to becoming the foundational database that AI actually relies on to comprehend your entire industry vertical.
Which really brings us to the most important part of this deep dive. Armed with the mechanics of SEVO, AI answer engines, and the Equate framework, what is the immediate actionable step you need to take right now? How do you protect your business from this terribly short-sighted industry panic?
Well, the blog post gives very clear instructions for a firm business-to-business conversation you really need to have with whoever manages your digital presence. But first, I think we need to address the fear of penalty because a lot of agencies deleted the code because they assumed keeping a deprecated feature would result in a ranking penalty from Google.
Right, but Google's official Search Central documentation explicitly debunked that, right?
Yeah.
They confirm that leaving the FAQ schema in your code is 100% valid and will cause absolutely zero harm. There is no algorithmic punishment for keeping the nutrition label on the back of the bag.
None whatsoever. It simply goes from being a visual trigger to a purely informational signal.
Okay, so knowing that it's safe and knowing it's critically important for AIO, here is the exact question you must ask your web manager, your SEO provider, or your internal marketing team today. Are you ready? You ask them. Since Google removed the visual FAQ drop-down boxes, do you plan to stop adding FAQ schema to our website?
That question is the ultimate litmus test for the competence of your marketing team in the SEVO era, truly.
What should the listener do if the agency answers yes, or worse, if they say they already went in and deleted the existing code to, clean things up?
Oh man, if they answer yes, you have a massive strategic vulnerability. Deleting that code actively strips away the organized data layer that your very next AI-driven client is relying on to find you.
Yeah.
It exposes a fundamental misunderstanding of where search technology is actually heading. They are effectively telling you, if we don't get a short-term visual vanity metric, we refuse to build your long-term digital infrastructure.
It's the definition of trading structural integrity for a fresh coat of paint. By abandoning the code, your agency is manually inducing that identity confusion we talked about earlier. So when AI assistants can no longer deterministically extract your FAQs, they simply stop recommending your business. Period.
But let's flip the perspective for a second. This widespread industry panic, it's actually a massive competitive advantage hiding right in plain sight.
How so?
Because if your competitors' agencies are all eagerly stripping out their schema and you insist on maintaining yours, you instantly become the most trusted, machine-readable entity in your local market. You fortify your position in the knowledge graph while everyone else literally vanishes.
You become the only bag of chips on the shelf with a legible nutrition label.
Exactly.
And as AI increasingly takes over the shopping, that's the only bag that matters.
It really is.
So as we wrap up this analysis, I want to leave you with a bit of a philosophical thought experiment about where this whole architectural shift is ultimately taking us. It goes a little bit beyond my immediate post, but I think it is the logical conclusion of everything we've explored today regarding SEVO.
Okay, if we follow the trajectory of a purely machine-readable internet, the implications for web design are massive.
Exactly. If businesses continue to aggressively optimize their digital presence behind the scenes, specifically for AI bots, pouring all their resources into highly structured JSON-LD data, machine-readable facts, and equate-level content that only machines directly extract, will the human-facing front of the internet eventually become obsolete.
Oh, wow. You're asking if the visual web itself is dying.
Are we heading toward a reality where websites are nothing more than raw, invisible databases designed exclusively for AI intermediaries to read on our behalf? I mean, think about the friction of the current model. If you never actually visit the local commercial contractor's beautifully designed website because Perplexity or ChatGPT just reads their schema, compares it against the local database, and tells you they are the best fit, why does that contractor need a $10,000 visual front page at all? Will the colorful front of the bag just wither away, leaving behind a matrix of pure, interconnected, structured data?
That suggests the emergence of a two-tiered internet.
Right.
The flashy visual front end might just become a legacy format for human browsing, much like print magazines today. Meanwhile, the dark, structured back end becomes the true engine of commerce, where actual transactions, lead generation, and decisions are brokered entirely by our AI assistants negotiating with your schema.
The businesses that survive the next decade will be the ones that master that invisible web. Something for you to deeply mull over the next time you review a gorgeous new website mock-up from your design team. Remember to ask yourself, what does the nutrition label on the back actually look like? Here's the wrapper. Google dropping visual FAQ results isn't the end of schema. It's the beginning of a purely AI-driven data layer where structured code determines if you even exist.
If you're a business owner challenged with this right now, the key is to immediately verify your site's architecture, email your web team today, and mandate that FAQ schema remains standard practice to ensure your Rhode Island or Southeastern Massachusetts business stays visible to AI engines. We'll be back in a few weeks with our next episode. From Omni Search Labs in Rhode Island, thanks for listening.
Head over to omnisearchlabs.com/blog to read the full post. Now go optimize something and be discovered.